souls consist. It seems likewise that he constitutes the soul as being allied to intelligibles from the genera of being, which primarily subsist in them, but that he gives figures to soul as being allied to sensibles. For things which are truly figured are sensibles, and that as being a medium between intelligibles and sensibles, he binds it with harmonic ratios, though in intelligible forms also, for they are the form of harmony and the form of figure. So within us, therefore, right now this is taking off now. So within us, therefore, are these things built within the soul itself, and that allows us, therefore, to comprehend the reasons for all the disciplines, all the things we want to know in the dialectic, and thus we can know all things. For we can know all things because the very things that we need to know them are built within the nature of the soul. Thank you. That's what I wanted to do tonight.
Question. We were back there and we had the one contemplating itself, the Lucia, and then somehow or other in the end we were down into this. How do we get stepped down to the demiurgus, this intelligible, vital, creation, ordering things? I didn't see where the step down occurred.
Yeah, quite right.
I missed that.
No, you didn't miss it. I mean, you might have missed it in another sense, but since I didn't state it, you missed it in another sense. Okay. One is considered the highest concept of a god. Right? But in the Platonic world, there are other kinds of gods. There's also a god that is a pure being, intellect. Now, when they talk about a pure being, they also talk about it as a primal being. And this pure being, therefore, has a intellect, right, and a vast vitality, and it is of the necessity of this thing. Now here's what we're going to call pure being. Right? Here we're going to call vitality. Here we're going to call it intellect, just to represent it. Now, in this interesting game, how does the first creation take place? See, the first creation has to be the idea in the mind of God. The Creator. Because you can't have any creation according to what we were doing before you have a model. That model, right, remember? The beautiful concept that he wanted everything to be like himself, modeled after himself. Therefore, there must be an idea of himself in the mind of God. Right? Now, Plato doesn't express this fully. Plotinus does in a very beautiful way. He puts the whole thing in terms of process. Plato puts it in terms of structure. So Plotinus sees the one as overflowing out of its fullness. There's a natural overflowing of itself, returning to itself. At the moment, at this returning to itself, with intellect, therefore, it must in some way recognize itself. Knows. Right? And knows that it is. And that it has turned upon itself. Well, that means, therefore, that must involve knows that it is being. Right? It has turned upon itself. That means there must be a vitality that allows it to turn upon itself, to see itself, knows and recognizes itself. Therefore, there must be intellect. Therefore, this must be overflowing and turning around and returning to itself. Now, that, metaphysically and theologically, is being. That's being. All right? That's being.
So being is part of the one.
Well, you can say it's not part of the one. When you take the idea of the one as a process, then you can talk about it this way. And at that moment of turning around and seeing itself, you can now call that being. But we remember that's ousia, turning upon itself, knowing itself. Right? Now, this then is, now we're going to go poetic a bit, right? But therefore this is the idea, capital I. This is the pattern. This is the idea God has of himself in creating the universe. Now, pardon me. Ah, good. Thank you. Thank you. Now, try this now. There's not, so to talk about it this way, we really mean that being isn't dead. It's really being primarily, but it also has a vitality and an intellect to it. So we can talk about this part of being as the intellect of pure being. We can talk about this part of it as being the vitality of pure being. Right? Right? In other words, we can make three distinctions in one, repeating itself. Therefore, in the same way now, we can talk about intellect. There's a being to being. There's a being to intellect. And there's a vitality to intellect. And there's also the highest aspect of intellect and intellect. By the way, in the same way, this can overflow and turn upon itself. Soul.
You answered my question. I know what you're doing.
See? Then you take the same drama with the same elements. Another generation created things.
So the fractal universe now.
Yeah, frankly, yeah. So, all right? Hi.
Hi. I heard you talk about soul in two ways. I heard you talk about soul itself and also the soul in body.
Yes.
And I thought I heard you say that soul must be in body or must somehow